Hi, good morning. Today is the 4th of July, and our reading today is from Romans chapter 8, verse 28. We know that all things work together for the good of those who love God, for those who are called according to his purpose. According to his purpose. This is a well-known verse in the Bible, isn't it? Sometimes you have it in a card that someone will send you for your birthday, or maybe when you are going through a tribulation. In Brazil, we have, and here as well, I just found it, little boxes with verses inside and all these wonderful promises that you have. Actually, in Brazil, we call it the promises box. And you'll find for sure Romans 8:28 there. But the danger with that sort of thing is when you take it out of its context, and you can make these verses say anything if it's out of its context. The general context of this verse is actually the whole book of Romans, and actually the whole Bible. But the near one is the beginning of chapter 8, when Paul is talking about the life in the Holy Spirit. Is the Holy Spirit that liberates us from sin? Is the Holy Spirit that shows that we are children of God? It's the Holy Spirit that is actually groaning with us, praying for us, interceding for us when we cannot do so. And we can go a bit further to chapter 5 or even chapter 3, where Paul is talking about justification by faith. All the wonderful work of the Holy Spirit, the work of God the Father, the work of Jesus the Son, to liberate us, to save us. In Romans chapter 5, verse 1, it says, Paul is saying that we have peace with God. And then in chapter 5, verse 5, that the Holy Spirit has poured into our hearts God's love. And then in end of chapter 5 and the whole of chapter 6 and to chapter 7, he's talking about the work of Christ on the cross and in his resurrection to change us completely, to give us a new life. So verse 28 of chapter 8 is like a conclusion when he say, well, we know now then that all things work together for the good of those who love God. There is another place where he says we know in chapter 8 is verse 22, when he says that we know that the whole creation is groaning today, waiting for the revelation of the children of God, of the glory of God and the children of God. And now he's saying that we know. What do we know? That in any situation, God can work things for our good. In every situation. But there is one situation in Romans, in the book of Romans, that this cannot happen. That's why it's important to know the context. Is Romans chapter 6, verse 23. Because it says that the wages of sin is death. So sin cannot help you to go forward. But any tribulation is when you are in a moment of joy, or then of lamentation, when you've got money, when you haven't got money at all. In any of those situations, God can make things work for your good. Even when the devil is trying to trick you, in any of those situations, actually he's going to talk about them at the end of this chapter, that nothing can separate us from the love of God. None of these situations. It is extremely important to know what he's talking about here. That's why we cannot just take this verse out of its context. And every time we read it, we have to think about it, about what he's saying here. Because he's also saying that things will work together for those who love God. I am at your door, Jesus said to the church of Laodicea, knocking. If you hear my voice and you open the door, I will enter, and we are going to eat together. It's for those who open the door. If the door of my heart is still closed, I cannot be blessed. And of course, there are amazing work of God's grace here. It is at the end of this verse, for those who are called according to his purpose. God has got a project, a plan, a purpose. And those who opened the door, they were called by God. John says that it was God that loved us first. God loved us beforehand, so we could love him. That's grace again, isn't it? It's God coming towards us to love us. He's searching for us. He wants us to be his people, to belong to him forever. We love God because he first loved us. Even the understanding that will help us to be blessed. It is for those who love God. It's not for everyone. Things are not going to work together for good for everyone. It's for those who love God. God bless you.